Oh yeah, I mean this is the lump of clay. That's kind of fun. Looks like nothing, but could be anything. One of the things I love about ceramics is you just get to make something physical. With a lot of other forms of art, it's kind of like 2D. It lives in an imaginary space, whereas ceramics is something you can hold, something you can use. For me, ceramics I got started in college. It was kind of one of those freebie classes I needed just to graduate, but became one of those classes that I kind of took with me. I never really kind of got past, so kept taking more classes and kind of gave it up after college, but recently was able to get back into it. I was giving a talk for the youth group and got to kind of explain how God creates us like a potter makes clay, just thinking back to the ceramic classes, and I rented a wheel for that, so I was able to give a couple of talks while I'm like physically making bowls and cups. And when I went to go return the wheel that I had borrowed, I asked the lady if she knew of any for sale, and she's like, "How about this one? It's about $100." I was like, "Done!" So I bought the wheel and brought it to my basement where it was just kind of taking over. Yeah, it's funny, there's kind of a process when throwing. It's called centering. This is the most important part of the entire stage, where you're just trying to get the clay kind of centered on the spinning wheel. It's the thing you need to spend the most amount of time doing, otherwise everything else kind of gets screwed up. And for me, that's kind of what it does in life. It's just kind of a place to relax, to slow down. Yeah, it's kind of a release. Once I kind of got back into the hobby, I just started giving away coffee mugs because I've got nowhere to store them. My wife wasn't very happy about the hundreds of coffee mugs that we've got just lining our house. So I started giving them away, and I think a few people kind of caught onto it and was wondering if I would consider making the communion bowls and cups for Heartland. And so I was like, definitely. For me, it is such you get to focus on just the clay. So in a world where I'm a pastor and get to meet with people and kind of their depths and carry all those conversations, ceramics is kind of a place where I don't have to think. It really gets back to just that centering process and just how important that is. I remember one time I was just like, I'm just gonna do this, and so I pressed it down real hard. It was kind of out of whack, but I was like so frustrated, and so I brought up the walls, and one of the walls was a ½ inch taller than the other side was about a ½ inch thicker, and so I kept trying to force this thing to do what I wanted it to do, and it just would not, because I didn't take the time to kind of slow down first. It was kind of this moment of like, I was doing that in my own life, trying to force things and push through without that kind of centering time with God. And the result was a pot that was all out of whack. And so that was just kind of a moment that God pressed upon me, just the importance of centering and just being with Him before I try and accomplish anything. So I think the beauty of working with clay is that little lump of clay has just endless potential. It can be a bowl, it can be a cup, it can be any kind of shape or size. It just kind of takes the eye of an artist to see what it could be. And I think that's what God sees when he looks at each of us, is just the potential of who he created us to be, even when we don't always see that potential ourselves. You definitely learn little bits every time you make a pot. You start noticing things you didn't notice before. Just kind of a more attention to detail. Yeah, so for the communion sets that I made for Heartland, a little bit of story behind it. Each of them is the same size. It fits perfectly kind of in a hands kind of offered out. There's just something kind of intimate about the size. I chose 4 different glazes just to represent how we're all so different, that it's the whole body that kind of comes together as the church, and so wanted there to be different kind of colors and things to represent that. If you notice, the glaze kind of goes all the way down, almost to the base, but there's a part of the clay that's left unfinished, which I just kind of like how you can see kind of the artist's fingerprint in that, how we're unfinished as well. Yeah, and then each of my pots features this stamp of a dandelion, which has always been an important image for me as I think about the body. How we each kind of gather here together like a dandelion, but the name of my ceramic studio is called Pneuma Ceramics, which means breath. So if you imagine a dandelion, when you breathe on it, how all those little seeds go out and kind of become their own dandelion, which is what I think of the church. You know, we all come here to gather, but by the breath of God, we go out and we do really incredible things. So I wanted each piece to kind of represent that potential.